Sam Harris is going viral for some pretty slanderous accusations that he made against Joe Rogan and President Trump. I've got that clip here for you, and I'm going to point out and want you to remember who Sam Harris is and the things that he has said in the past before we believe this disgraceful rhetoric coming out of his mouth. Also, protesters took to the streets against President Trump and Elon Musk this weekend, and you are going to want to hear what the co-chair of the Democratic Policy and Communications Committee, Congressman Maxwell Frost, had to say about Elon Musk. Apparently, Elon got rich not because he provided incredibly unique value to the marketplace and the world, but because of this. Absolutely insane. And finally, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent sat down with Tucker Carlson, and Bessent stunned Tucker, like won him over to their economic policies type of stunned, sharing some shocking statistics about the American economy that you need to be aware of. You think these guys don't know what they're doing for everyday working Americans? Think again. I'm Zach Costello.
The people who are hoping that yesterday's move will lead to a demonstrably brighter future within 4 years. Is it your sincere prediction that within 4 years we'll say, actually, that kind of worked?
I believe that it's going to work, and I know that what we were doing wasn't working.
Yes.
So I think we have to try this, and I have a high confidence ratio it's going to work. And I have a very high confidence ratio. The good news is, we have President Trump's previous term when everyone said none of this was going to work. Oh, the China tariffs are going to do this. They're going to cause inflation. They didn't. This is going to happen to working class. It's going to be bad for working class Americans. Well, guess what? Working class Americans, the hourly workers did better than supervisory workers. The bottom 50% of households, their net worth increased faster than the top 10% of households. And look, I'm not happy with what's going on in the market today, but the distribution of equities across households, the top 10% of Americans own 88% of equities, 88% of the stock market. The next 40% owns 12% of the stock market. The bottom 50 has debt. They have credit card bills, they rent their homes, they have auto loans, and we've got to give them some relief. That I was struck by the statistic from last year.
That's the message right there. Just as a bystander, I'm like, wow, okay.
The constant rhetoric that we hear from President Trump's enemies is that he hates America, he's a fascist, and he only cares about his rich friends. The top 10%, you just heard Bessent say it, of Americans own 88% of equities. That means 90% of working Americans either own 12% of equities or none. The rest have debt. So when you hear those kicking and screaming about Trump's policies hurting the stock market and pretending that affects working class Americans, no, they are in fact lying. And speaking of lying, protesters took to the streets in D.C. against President Trump and Elon Musk this weekend, and you are going to want to hear what the co-chair of the Democratic Policy and Communications Committee, Congressman Maxwell Frost, had to say about Elon Musk. Apparently, Musk got rich not because he provided some incredibly unique value to the marketplace and the world, but because of this. Watch.
We're all closer to being on the streets than having a bank account that looks like his. How do you think he got to where he's at? I had people who come up to me and say, Maxwell, why would they be stealing? Elon Musk is already the richest person in the world. He has enough money. The question is, how do you think he became the richest person in the world?
Elon Musk created one of the first online banking companies that eventually merged with PayPal, giving him 11% of that company and making him about $175 million when it eventually sold. He then reinvested his money into Tesla, finally making the electric car cooler than the Toyota Prius, in contribution to help the world and environment. Then investing into SpaceX and Twitter. He made money, got rich by providing incredibly unique, one-of-a-kind value to the marketplace and the world. Congressman Maxwell Frost, and apparently these protesters in D.C. and the left and the media think it's because he is stealing from Americans through Doge. What a joke. What a laughingstock. complete and utter fraud behavior. And finally, speaking of someone who has emerged as a complete fraud, and I'll be honest, even though I'm a God-fearing person, I used to at least have respect for Sam Harris, but not anymore, and here is why.
And when Joe talks to someone like Trump or Tucker Carlson or any of these other guys who lie as freely as they breathe and doesn't push back against any of their lies. In fact, in Trump's case, really fairly energetically helped put his lies into the most plausible possible shape. It is irresponsible. I mean, it is directly harmful. Our society is as politically shattered as it is, in part because of how Joe has interacted with information. Again, I don't think this is. I think a lot of this is inadvertent, or maybe all of it's inadvertent. But it is also avoidable, right? He could actually take the responsibility that really is his to take at this point to get his facts straight and have someone other than Jamie there riding shotgun with him. Where he could have two brilliant journalists whose full-time job. He could pay each of them $1 million a year just to sit there and make sure he doesn't put his foot in his mouth in a colossally irresponsible way.
I want you to remember this final point. Sam Harris is the same man who shamed every single one of us who didn't get the COVID vaccine and support lockdowns. Sam Harris is also on record on the Triggernometry podcast with Konstantin Kisin, claiming that the media, the FBI, and the government literally a gag order, gagging the Hunter Biden laptop story and suppressing free speech in order to prevent Donald Trump from being elected president was a justified move. Everyone knows that Joe Rogan is simply a truth seeker who entertains multiple perspectives on a wide range of topics. Sam Harris is simply now a shill for the Democratic Party. Let me know what you guys think. Guys, make sure to subscribe if you watch this channel consistently for God first, truth-seeking, quick-hitting commentary to keep you informed and in the truth. I'll see you in the next one.